Welcome to date number 5, approval of family and friends. When you're marrying your fiancé or fiancée, you're also marrying his or her family. Before the date, spend 1 hour individually filling out the questionnaires on family issues, friends approval, and in-law issues. This date will take 2 hours. Afterwards, at home alone, record your feelings and thoughts in your journal, which I have at the end of the questionnaires, which is in the link, regarding your discussion about your parents' and friends' approval or disapproval and your future interactions with in-laws. Do you foresee any problems? Are they insurmountable? Ponder your feelings and listen to your heart. Instructions. On the date, compare each other's answers to the questionnaires. Discuss differences. Where there's conflict, discuss each other's willingness to address these issues prior to marriage. To try to make the date relevant to the subject being discussed. Use your imagination. Here's one suggestion. Plan your date in your home or apartment with your partner. If you have roommates, make sure you schedule with them to have 2 hours alone. Order in a pizza or Chinese food. Questionnaire number 1. Family issues. Do your parents approve of your partner? If not, describe why. 2. Are any of your parents' objections valid? Why? Look at them with an open mind. 3. Should you seriously pay attention to their concerns? Should you continue courting or postpone marriage to investigate their objections? When you are together, discuss the following. If there are parental objections to either or both sides, how are we going to deal with the disapproval? If there are potential problems in this area, discuss how each of you will protect your partner from negative comments or behavior from parents. Decide on a game plan for coping. Set your rules and boundaries of protection before the wedding. Friends' approval. Are there any other person important to you that disapprove of your partner? If so, why do they disapprove? Are there any reasons that are valid? Should you look at these as facts or just opinions? If you decide they have a valid reason, is it an issue that can be solved? How? Are you prepared to marry despite the disapproval of others? If you proceed with your marriage, will you lose a friendship? Can you handle that? How? Do you dislike any of your partner's friends? Whom and why? Will you refuse to associate with any of these friends after you are married? If so, when, who, and why? Discuss this with your partner. Does he or she agree with you? Why or why not? What can you do about this? In-law issues. Questionnaire number 3. What will be the influence of your future in-laws in your marriage? If they have influence, determine the hierarchy of authority after you marry. For example, if you want your spouse and your parents to agree on an issue such as the proper car to buy, and you favor the opinion of your parents, how will you make the decision? What will be your strategy? If your in-laws attempt to interfere in your marriage and you don't want their help, how will you handle the situation? If your parents insult your spouse and he or she never wants to speak to them again, how will you handle the situation? How much will your future be integrated into your in-laws' lives? How many times a year will you see them? How many visits will be expected? What are your partner's desires on the subject? Do you agree? Do you like your prospective in-laws? What do you like about them? What do you dislike about your prospective in-laws? What do you see as areas of future conflict with your in-laws? Are there cultural differences with your prospective in-laws that could cause future conflict? What are they? Are there religious differences with your future in-laws that could cause conflict? List them. How do you feel about your prospective in-laws staying with you when they visit? Who makes the decision? Are your future in-laws the types to just show up and expect to stay with you for 2 or 3 weeks? What privacy policies should you have in regard to in-laws? What rules and boundaries should you have in regard to in-laws? Write them down. If your in-laws become incapable of taking care of themselves, what will you do? Take them in? Put them in a retirement home? What will be your role in their care? Concepts to consider. If your parents, relatives, and or friends disapprove of your marriage, seriously weigh the objections before you move forward with the wedding plans. Are their objections something you can consider? Ask yourself, are you convinced without a doubt that your marriage will last in spite of their opposition or objections? Many a marriage has broken up from these troubles. Make sure your love is strong enough to endure opposition from your loved ones. It's important for you to be ready to support and stand up for your spouse at all times. You must be unified in front of your parents and friends. Your spouse is the most important person in your life. You must be willing to defend and protect each other against outside negativity. If you can't do this, then you are not prepared to marry your fiancé or fiancée. Reconsider getting married and or seek professional counseling. Aaron and Tom married straight out of college. They were both 22 years old and each other's first serious love. They had an elaborate society wedding at an exclusive club. Tom's parents gave the newlyweds a small brick Tudor house for a wedding gift. Aaron's parents, living on modest schoolteacher salaries, gave the young couple a set of china purchased at a discount store. After the wedding, trouble in paradise began. First, Tom went to work for his mother Martha in the family business. Martha insisted the young couple spend monthly dinners at her home. This was an innocuous sounding request. However, Martha did not like Aaron. Aaron wanted to love Martha, but her constant barbs at dinner time offended her. Martha had verbally expressed her dislike of Aaron before the wedding, but Tom turned a deaf ear. Now the objections were expressed to Aaron directly. Martha didn't like the way Aaron dressed. Her clothes looked low class. Martha asked her to change her hairstyle. Martha didn't like Aaron's job and wanted her to work in the family business. At home, Aaron would plead with Tom to defend her at family dinners. He would reply, I can't. I have to keep the peace because I work with her and I'm going to inherit the business someday. I don't want her to get on the bad side. Aaron, with contempt, would say, Who do you love, her or me? Aaron, that's not fair. You know I love you, he would state firmly. No, you love your mother more than you love me, or you'd defend me. So the arguments would escalate, each time worse than the last. Finally, Aaron went to a counselor and realized she didn't have to stay in a marriage that brought her unhappiness. After only 2 years of marriage, they divorced. We could say it was thanks to their in-law objections, interference, and Tom's lack of loyalty to his new wife. Remember, when you marry, you also marry his or her family. The unresolved differences you uncover in this premarital counseling course are warning signs to you. Differences will magnify after the wedding. Courtship is a time of being on one's best behavior with a tendency to minimize differences. So be open-minded, objective as possible, and resolve differences and or compromise prior to your wedding. Don't forget to journal. What did you learn new on this date? If you have unresolved differences or conflicts, what plans do you have for resolution?